We want to welcome this week Gary and Randy Ellin, as well as Josh Ellin. We would love to have them here for happier occasions. A month ago, very tragically, Gary and Randy's father and Josh's grandfather tragically passed away. And the 30 days after somebody passes away is the end of the second period of mourning. It's actually, for most relatives, it's the end of the mourning period. For a parent, it continues. And we that are living have so many opportunities where we can earn ourselves merits for the world to come. Every word of Torah that we learn, every good deed that we do, we earn tremendous merit. And those that have passed on do not have that opportunity that we have. The letters for the word neshama, which means soul, nun, shin, mem, he, is the same letters as the word mishnah. And from our earlier sages, they've taught us that one way to increase the merits of a dead person is by using those letters mem, shun, nun, he, mishnah, and that increases for the neshama their soul to get them closer to God. And Dr. Bartfeld and his son arranged for there to be a Siyum, a completion of the entire Mishnah, every single Mishnah that's written, to have different people learn different parts of it, which will certainly increase the merits of Mr. Isidore Ellin. And I'm going to call on Dr. Bartfeld in a moment to please finish up the Siyum on the Mishnayos, as well as to address us. After the Siyum, the Ellins have generously sponsored some hot food that we'll have, as well as we have some drink that everybody can partake in. And anybody that would like to go upstairs for Marvate at 1:00, that is also, everybody's free at that moment. So Dr. Bartfeld, thank you so much for arranging this, and please come up.
I want to thank very much the rabbis Levine for really extending themselves and opening the program that they founded and that they continued with such success against all odds and on pure initiative, and opening it up for this occasion. As Rabbi Levine said, we're taught that Mishnayos, learning Mishnayos is something which is beneficial for the neshama of the departed. The Mishnah is the first codification of the oral law, of the oral tradition, and death is not a natural part of the world. When man was created, he was not intended to die. It was. I feel with the presence of all the very distinguished rabbis and learned people here, it's not really for me to be saying Torah, but I can only say things that I've heard from people who've taught me, and so this is an oral tradition which I've received, and it was only when man decided, when Adam Harishon, the first man, asked to be able to accomplish something in this world and not simply to live in it as Hashem had made it, that Hashem said that that's okay if that's what you want to do, but the only way you're going to actually accomplish anything is if you have a deadline, and that's when death was introduced into the world. So much of the practices, traditions, and rules of how to conduct themselves through the course of death and bereavement are not actually found written. They just have to be received from the one generation to the next. And that's another reason why Mishnayos, learning of Mishnah, is something which is done for the neshama of the departed, because it is the beginning of being able to see for all of us the written the oral tradition. The Mishnah is written very tersely and cannot be learned without a teacher. And when we learn Mishnayos, those original teachers, those original Tanoim, the authors of the Mishnah, they teach us again, and new teachers who have received the tradition to explain what they wrote down have to be called upon to be able to tell us what it all means. And all this evolves back to the originators, back to those Tanoim who sacrificed. We're taught that they sacrificed their own professional and personal development. We're taught that many of them for reasons that are not so clear, but which we review every year, died in very dramatic ways in the defense of their ideals and in defense of our people. And everything that we do not only is for us to take with us to the next world as we learn, but it's as if they're doing it again, and their neshama gets a benefit that's hard for us to understand, but it's horrible to be bored over it, and this is very interesting. And when we're up in Shemayim, when we're up in heaven, this is all we have to occupy ourselves with. So being able to learn it here gives us the ability to take it with us, and those who are there already have it refreshed for them, and it elevates them, and it's extremely enjoyable to them. And by bringing this much nachas to those who are there, it helps the neshama of the one who we're learning it for. And that's why we're here. So my son, it actually wasn't me, it's my son who had the idea. He called Gary after Mr. Ellin passed away. The elder Mr. Ellin was so horribly taken from us, which was also very unnatural. And he arranged to have the whole Mishnayos learned by his yeshiva primarily. I'll just say a little bit of one of the Mishnayos that I did, and then we'll say a Kaddish. Ma'aser behema noyeg be'eretz u'chutz la'aretz, that Ma'aser behema, the tithing of cattle, is conducted both in Eretz Yisrael and also in the diaspora. B'fnei habayis v'shalei b'fnei habayis b'chulin al b'lei b'mikdashim. V'noyeg b'bakar u'batzayin v'bemis asim mizeh al zeh v'ksavu v'izim v'misasim mizeh al zeh v'chadash u'v'yashin v'benis asim mizeh al zeh shahayad b'din ma'am ha'chodesh v'yashin she'en klayim zeh b'zeh ein misasim mizeh al zeh Haksam v'yizim she'en klayim zeh b'zeh ein adin shlei sasus mizeh al zeh Talmud lema v'tzayin kol mash v'tzayin echad. So it's giving a little bit of an explanation of how the Torah decides what the different species are. And when you tithe, you have to tithe from one species onto itself. And the Mishnah explains how we look at different species, how we differentiate them. So we have a Hajj. I'm not going to say a Hajj, it's just a Kaddish. It's just a Kaddish Drabban. I'm not going to do a Hajj. Just a Kaddish Drabban. Special Kaddish Ellin lachin shlomo rab b'china b'chista v'rach min v'chayin adichin zaynu revichei. V'kanim v'kad magoni v'shmaya v'yimru amei. Hey shlomo rab v'shmaya v'chayin toiv muleni v'achol Yisrael v'yimru amei. Yaseh shalom v'maynovi, yaseh shalom muleni v'achol Yisrael v'yimru amei.